Well, hello there, and welcome to the recording of yet another episode of Marketing Scoop, not Search Marketing Scoop, Marketing Scoop. That is the name of the show from now on, and has been for a couple of episodes. Good to have you on board. It'll take a little while, just a few minutes, for people to start to creep in the door here and start to watch us live. So I'm not going to start the proper introduction until we get a few live viewers in, and I see we've got some in already. So thank you so much for joining us. Good to have you here. Where in the world are you? Tell us where you are joining us from, and tell us what you happen to be doing in your work lives at the moment. Are you focusing on SEO? Are you focusing on broad digital marketing, or perhaps some other specialism? It would be great to just to get a feel for what you are tending to focus on in your work lives at the moment. We've got Michael Asen from Norway. Hi, Michael. Great to have you on. We've even got one of the guests that I am going to introduce you to interacting in the chat already. So very impressive. But as I said to a previous guest, I will be even more impressed if you can do that and talk at the same time. So look forward to that later on. We've got Abdul joining us from Saudi Arabia. We've got lots of different countries joining us just now. So wherever you happen to be, tell us where you're joining us from. It's always great to get a feel for who is watching us, what your background is, and hopefully what area of digital marketing you happen to be working in. Just before we get started, I had a little look at the SEMrush sensor tool. I'm not sure if you've had a look at that, but if I show you the live view of that, there was a lot of flux happening yesterday. So maybe you might have seen a bit of flux in your SEO rankings if that's something that you focus on. So if that's the case, tell us if you've actually seen a lot of flux happening. It's a decent tool. You can find it over at semrush.com/sensor. Back to the video here as well. We're getting more and more people joining us. So thank you for joining us, and welcome. This, of course, is going to be the recording of an audio podcast. We happen to do it live on YouTube. We're doing the recording of the audio podcast. You can interact with us, but if you want to consume the replay, then certainly do that as an audio podcast. If you search for Search Marketing Scoop in your favorite podcast app, then you're bound to find us using that. We'll update everything to Marketing Scoop very, very soon. We've got, is it USA we've got coming on? Oh, yeah, Francis. Hello from Atlantic City. Francis, great to have you on board as well. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us live. I am going to start the proper podcast introduction now. So that's the introduction that you'll hear for the audio podcast if you actually listen to that as well, and you won't have this whole bonus preamble. So maybe you want to join us next time just to listen to the preamble. Anyway, here we go, starting with the proper podcast recording. Marketing Scoop Season 2, Episode 3. Will DuckDuckGo ever be a serious Google contender? And why did this piece of content achieve significant success? This is Marketing Scoop, the SEMrush show that revels in the latest digital marketing trends and also looks at the items that impact your marketing strategy. Now, together with industry experts, we'll delve into SEO advertising and content marketing to uncover the ultimate recipe for digital marketing success. Hi, I'm your host, David Bain, and for Season 2 of The Scoop, I'm also pleased to be joined by a shocktastic, judgmental co-host. She is the international speaker and trainer and the founder of Decabit Consultancy. Hello again, Judith Lewis.
Hello. And of course, you had me at Revels.
Revels. I was hoping that no one would pick up on that. Thank you, Judith. Yeah. So, great to have Judith on board again. And now, though, for today's guests. First up, a canonicalized chronicler. He heads up a team of SEOs and is the MD at Type A Media. Welcome to The Scoop, Ross Tavendale.
Thank you very much, sir. I've got to say, like that introduction music, my shoulders were going. I was getting really into that.
Just keep it. Shall I keep it playing? Just play it a bit more. Here we go. Let's. Now the floor is yours, Ross.
It was like the classic thing they say when you're the prime minister: don't let them see you dancing, and don't let them see you in your swimming suit. So I won't be dancing.
Well, okay. I was going to say another reason, dear audio listeners, to come and watch the video version as well. But perhaps Ross can work up to it and give us a little bit of a towards the end of the
If you're
episode.
listening to this on audio right now with no video, we're actually all in swimsuits. So I highly recommend you tune in next time.
You're missing a lot. Anyway, next up, a 10x man who loves new ideas. He is a strategist, a marketer, and a blogger, and the head of marketing demand generation at CoSchedule. Welcome, Nathan Ellering.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm going to say too, like that intro music, while you just talk over it, it's just, I should just have that all the time for me. Like, that's awesome.
Well, I was going to, maybe I should play it for you as well. Would you like to give us a dance as well?
Just leave it on throughout the whole show. Why not?
Let's get to the news, maybe. The news story that we're looking at this week is the fact that DuckDuckGo have now surpassed 30 million searches in a day. Ross, you're smiling away there. How significant is this?
I mean, I'm sure it's very significant for everyone at DuckDuckGo and an excellent reason to, pop a bottle of champagne and have a party. But in terms of search, not very impressive or important. I think DuckDuckGo get a lot of press about the fact that they are, all for your security and privacy, but I just don't think there's a big need or want. I think we pretend that we want security and privacy, but I think we want convenience over security and privacy. That 30 million number, I'm sure someone's got the stats on what Google's doing. I imagine it's, orders of magnitude bigger.
Nathan, you were nodding away there when Ross was talking about convenience. Is convenience always going to win over privacy?
I was thinking about the exact same things, like drop in the bucket. I couldn't find anything that was like pretty updated, but as far as what Google's up to, I found this like super old article from Search Engine Land, 2016. And at the time they were getting like 3 billion searches, nearly 3 billion searches a day. So I agree, drop in the bucket, concentrate where the audience is and use the tools they are using to attract them. So as a marketer, why would you focus on anything else?
What are your thoughts on this one, Judith?
Well, I'm always the controversial one. And one of the first things that came to my mind is no one's going to be spamming DuckDuckGo, so no bots on DuckDuckGo. So that's pretty clean data. But also just, the number of people that are turning to Bing because of bots and because of bot clicks is significant because they're seeing better ROI because they're just not getting those wasted budgets on their PPC and they're not getting false positives on click-throughs. And think about all the spamming that comes through on analytics as well. So from the point of view of Google's numbers versus DuckDuckGo, I'm slightly skeptical on Google's numbers because, spamming at volume. But from the point of view of what is a significant milestone for DuckDuckGo, awesome, guys. Just, improve the algorithm, improve the results, improve the experience. And then maybe those of us who are concerned about privacy will tune back into DuckDuckGo. But yeah, I think I agree with Nathan. Most people are going for convenience over DuckDuckGo and not wiping their web history, which enables the rest of us to have a little giggle.
So marketers at the moment generally needn't bother about DuckDuckGo. It's of interest, but leave it be at the moment. You never know what the future may hold in a couple of years' time, but certainly at the moment, just not worthwhile bothering about. That's the general consensus.
It's funny. I mean, I think that is the consensus. But interestingly, if you type in SEO agency London, there's a bunch of SEO agencies that are advertising on it. So it must have some value somewhere. I think it's probably because the clicks are a penny or something like that. It costs literally nothing to advertise there. I don't know what their ad platform is. Perhaps it lends it from other places and that's just part of a network. I can't see there being a ton of value. Maybe it's the audience there are definitely a tech audience, right? Like my grandmother isn't sitting on DuckDuckGo to find out, whatever my grandmother searched. That'd be an interesting article, what my grandmother searches for on Google. But she's not sitting there. The mass populace are not sitting on DuckDuckGo. It's all Google. But maybe if you're pushing to a tech audience or if you're a security company, maybe that might be a thing. I don't know.
Maybe you need to advertise on there if you are tailoring to that particular audience. And it could be a good growth hacking opportunity that is driving traffic for a lot less than would be available in Google Ads.
Yeah, I mean, 30 million impressions. Sorry, Nathan, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, when you said clicks for a penny, I'm all about that. Like, the more you can be present in front of people, the better. Like, I almost think about some of that stuff. Like, if it costs you next to nothing, maybe just do it, but don't concentrate all of your efforts on it. But it's fine to test new things. Yeah.
But I think then that we need to try and get a paid marketer, if there is one, that focuses on DuckDuckGo for a future show. That'd be an interesting conversation. Or
that one of their channels is DuckDuckGo. I advise all of my clients to go on DuckDuckGo.
Oh, to see they're getting out of it. But it's obviously not the main part of the conversation today. That is a post that was published on CoSchedule called "What 23 Studies Say About the Best Times to Post on Social Media." So, Nathan, would you like to tell us a little bit about this post, when it was published, and the success that you've had through it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I had even forgotten what the name of the title was. When we first launched this post, it was like 6 studies. That's what we analyzed. And so it's obviously come a long way. We've kept up with this post, published it back in 2015. And really, the reason for this is that it started as a question that our customers at CoSchedule are actually asking us. So with CoSchedule, you can post to social media. So people were using the tool to share their stuff on social networks, but they had this question of, well, when do I actually share? So like, I actually just talked to our support people, and as a way to improve our own customer experience, wrote this post to help them use our tool better. And then what we found out was, other people had the same question. Obviously, when we try to publish content at CoSchedule, we do try to prioritize keywords. But interestingly enough, back in 2015, we were using Moz at the time, and it basically said that no one was searching for best times to post on social media, which I call shenanigans on. And basically, what we did was we tried to answer a question that we knew people had, regardless of what tools were telling us. And it has definitely worked out for us since.
Brilliant. Okay, so how do you decide to go by your gut instinct in terms of the selection of those kind of phrases to incorporate, within your heading and to call your posts that? How did you know to call shenanigans on that?
Yeah, I literally looked at our support tickets. So we would get things through Zendesk and we would tag them. So I could see when people what words they were using to request this basically functionality from us or request a resource from us. And so I literally just used the words that they were using in the post. That's exactly how we did it. And one of the things that we found out was in order for it to be a comprehensive post, which is one of our standards of performance for creating content here at CoSchedule, is that I should just have a section that is for every major social network. When is the best time to post on Facebook? Literally written in the form of a question. When is the best time to post on Instagram? In the form of a question in an H2. So essentially, it was trying to answer all of those questions in one resource and be the one-stop shop for you if you had any questions about when to post on any social network. So to answer your question, like latent semantic indexing or those related terms have really helped it continue to grow since we published it back in 2015.
And obviously 3 years later, is it not possible to conduct the kind of long tail keyword research more effectively now through sites like Answer the Public? Or do you still have to go with your gut instinct now as well?
We use gut a little bit, but we try to really find, for any piece of content that we do, at least a core keyword in those related terms that seem like they would be things that people would search for in conjunction with each other. So that sort of clustering idea is something that we try to do at CoSchedule. Something that we've done based on the success of the posts that we're kind of talking through today is we'll borrow the same structure from it and tackle a very similar idea. For example, we found out the best time to post on social media was really successful. Why might that be? Why do people care about it? Okay, let's write a post on the best time to send email. And we publish that, another top performer. When is the best time to publish a blog post? Another top performer. When is the best time to publish on YouTube is next on our list because we know that people search for that stuff. So that's some way that we use the same structure to create new content based on the success of this piece.
And have you had a continual stream of visitors to this piece? And if so, is it largely visitors from organic search that you're getting?
Yeah, we get tons of visitors to this piece through organic search. I mean, throughout its lifetime, it's like almost 7 million. I'm looking at it right now, 7 million visitors to that piece, just that piece alone. And that's coming through its core keyword. That's coming through those synonym keywords that we're using in it. So I would say it's been pretty successful there.
And obviously, we're seeing the advent of things like answer boxes at the top of search results now. Are you appearing within that, or has that impacted the level of traffic that you've received?
Yeah, something that's interesting in the forms of competition is so CoSchedule is a marketing tool, and that means that we would have a blog that was meant to attract marketers. And the way that our industry is going is that there are now more marketing tools than ever before. When we launched, it was maybe like 2,000 tools, and now it's 6,000. The reason why I bring this up is every single marketing tool in the world is going to publish a blog about marketing. So we've experienced tons of competition for this post itself because I think tools have started to catch up and understand that people are searching for these sorts of terms. So the competition has always been there. It's gotten way more significant as of late. And so we have done some things, to your point, to try to capture those featured snippets, to use tables of contents to try to show up there in place 0. So yeah, while we might lose a little bit of users to something like that, it's all about providing that value and trying to help them understand that CoSchedule provided it so that they have a reason to come back to the blog at some point. If they're searching for something else, maybe they'll remember us and say, I trusted what they provided before. I'll go into this resource now on this other topic.
Judith, what are your thoughts on this, and what kind of queries do you have yourself?
Well, I speak at a lot of blogger conferences, so I absolutely know that these are the kind of things that people are asking. And of course, because I'm such a contrary person, my first thoughts are always about, is it authentic if it's scheduled? Because we're looking at when is the best time to hit these people. If everybody is hitting people at the same time, does that not start to skew the timing? So obviously this was done in the US, and there's a lot of diversity in the data, I noticed, which obviously it's because, different people react to different types of companies' posts at different times. So in the UK, where we are, well, some of us, not all of us, how would we adapt this data for the UK? Is it a straight one-to-one, like just translate time zones? Or I think you suggest in your article, don't you have a tool or something that we can use to find what's good for us?
Yeah, I think that's a really brilliant question to ask because a blog post like this is focused on generalities. So if you look across the board at all these different social networks, you're going to find a trend that we suggest posting right before work at breaks, so lunch breaks or coffee breaks, and then right after work is done, and then mid-afternoon when people are looking for a distraction from work. Like across the board, all social networks, it's that. To your point, though, we know that this is a problem that a single blog post can't really solve. Like we can't do something on every single time zone, but we knew it was a big problem. So what we did was, after we realized that this little tiny blog post was becoming this popular, why do people actually care about the best times to post? Like, you're wasting your time on something that's pretty trivial, actually. and you're wasting out your time on something that maybe a tool could do better for you. So to your point, we've built best time scheduling into CoSchedule. So this is a way that we've used our content marketing to improve the product that we sell to our own customers, knowing that they want to solve this issue. What if you didn't have to remember I bet there's like 150 different best times. Like, good luck remembering that. What if you just had a tool that did it automatically for you?
Absolutely. And you've got a downloadable little thing as well that you said was available for people.
Oh, yeah. So, to your point, something that we've done is, so we knew that we were getting tons of traffic to this piece. And what do you want to do with traffic? You want to convert it into something so that you can market to these people. So we decided to convert them into email subscribers by giving them away a Google Analytics custom report where they could just literally open it in their own Google Analytics, and it would tell them all of the social networks and the best times to post for their own audiences based on when they're getting traffic from those networks to their website. So hopefully that was a way to provide some value right there that is ultra specific to each individual's own audience.
So they're able to get their own personal data, as well as using the work that you guys have already done to understand when the best times could be for their business. But I know a lot of businesses, a lot of small businesses. I do a lot of volunteering, and it's really tough for them to post across all these different networks at the right time with the right thing. Because of my love of chocolate, I talk to and try to work with a lot of chocolate companies to help them out. And their biggest problem is they can take all the pictures they want, but getting traffic from Instagram is tough. And do they focus there? Where do they focus? So I think your tool and your article is absolutely fantastic. And of course, any tips or hints that you have with using your tool, or even without, that you could give our audience, especially the smaller businesses out there, would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, with CoSchedule, we kind of focus on this idea of a marketing management platform, I guess. So oftentimes you don't just have social media that you want to share, or you just don't have a blog post that you want to publish, or an ebook to write. All these things are in conjunction. And so what we try to do is help people organize that stuff together and be able to attach these social campaigns to posts whenever you want them to. And you can set up basically what we call a social template to help you promote out. So that's definitely something you can do with CoSchedule. So I hope that kind of answers what you're thinking of, Judith.
Also, Ross, do you have any tips or ideas for our audience about how to best post when they have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything, Pinterest, everything that they have to think about, and they have to post across 6 different platforms from their phone while they're trying to help customers?
Yeah, absolutely. Mostly selfies with cats. No. Yeah, so we do this thing called a COPE strategy, which stands for create once, publish everywhere. And the idea being that you create pillar content. For example, we do something called the Canonical Chronicle, which is a video of marketing news deliberately split into 30-second segments with kind of, I'm going to hate myself for saying this word, snackable content. Everyone has just been sick in their mouth, snackable content. And you would take that 30-second video, they would chat into 6-second videos for Instagram stories, and then obviously on the main feed for Twitter, you then take stills and turn them into caption cards. So all you're trying to do is take your core pillar piece of content that you've spent a fortune on in terms of time and resources, and you're trying to change it and kind of modify it. Technically, we're doing a COPE strategy right now. This is a video which is going to go on YouTube, which is a core platform. The audio is then going to be ripped and put through a podcasting network. And I imagine the Semrush people will take out some really interesting quotes from it and make quote cards. They'll go on, Twitter and Instagram, etc. The idea being that not everyone wants to consume your piece of content in the way that you want to push it out. So I would love to do a big rambling 30-minute video where I just talk to a camera because I'm an egomaniac. Not a lot of people want to listen to that or watch that, but they will happily scroll through 30 seconds on an Instagram story or something like that.
So your 6-second videos, Ross, that you would submit to Instagram, is that just a brand building exercise? Or are you trying to drive people back to the original longer form piece?
That's absolutely a brand building exercise. So one of the things that we are really interested in when we talk to our clients from an SEO and content perspective, which not a lot of people talk about, is your brand searches. They should be going up over time. If they're static, that's a real problem. There's only so much I can do to drive genetics, but if you're not helping me on the demand generation side, when people see your URL, your click-through rate's going to stay the same. It's going to be harder to advertise. Something interesting, actually, when we ran display advertising, which I typically completely take the mickey out of everyone that does display, because their metrics were like, oh no, it used to be clicks, now it's view through metrics. So I think they saw it, then they converted. So we're claiming that as our sale. Like, what a load of nonsense. But when we run that at scale, our brand searches do go up. I've not ran it for long enough because I just don't want to hemorrhage that kind of cash. But I'd love to see if that has an effect on our overall site, because brand searches and clicks onto the site. But yeah, that's our kind of play. We're very big on brand, and we love speaking to hardcore SEOs, especially black hats, and say that brand's a factor in the algorithm, because they absolutely hate hearing that.
Nathan, are you measuring brand uplift as a result of social media sharing?
With social media, social media is a hard beast to crack. And this is even coming from a company that integrates with all of the major social platforms. A lot has changed in recent years. And I would say social media as a brand play is the way to do it. I can tell you that we use what Ross is talking about with display. We look a lot at brand building. Like, we'll use Facebook purely to get our logo in front of people, so that if they see our name somewhere else, that we are recognizable. So I would say there is a ton of value, in social retargeting that way, even in search and Google display. We do a bunch of that purely to get our logo in front of people all the time. Once you visit our site, I want you to remember us. Branding is extremely valuable. And Ross, actually, I'll have to start measuring the way that you're talking about. That's super smart.
Yeah,
I was just going to ask Ross as well, just before we go into our actionable tips, do you have any other thoughts on any aspect of this post that we've been talking about that hasn't been mentioned that you think is good practice? Or is there anything that you would also suggest perhaps bringing into this post to expand its appeal?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, with the scheduling thing, it's interesting. If you look at a Twitter timeline as an example of where scheduling may or may not play a particular role, I'm seeing tweets that are being resurfaced a couple of days later because I've lost them in the fire hose, just because that person has high engagement metrics. And we're also seeing what some of the things we say to our clients, if we're posting things out onto Instagram or posting things out onto Twitter, we have an alert system where that if it doesn't get any engagement within the first 10, 15 minutes, we actually take it down and retry later, because that's going to fall flat. I was lucky enough to work with it's the biggest Facebook page in the world. And that's the exact thing that happens there. If it goes on and the engagement metrics don't hit enough to trip the algorithm, that content comes down, and then we try again. And then we've got a big protracted analytic dashboard of good times to post, types of content to post, when it does well. So you can get a little bit of a read on it. But to be honest, the real variable is actually the creative that you're pushing and the story you're pushing. It can be something totally benign and banal that does insanely well, versus this thing you've just spent 30 grand producing and it totally flops.
So what's the real reason behind that post being taken down, Ross? Is it because you're actually going to negatively impact your organic footprint, or your future footprint on Facebook, or is it simply because you think that post should deserve a bigger audience?
It's the first reason. So if you imagine a big spike in a traffic graph, and imagine putting a ball at the top of a very, very steep incline and letting it roll down, the long tail of that engagement is going to be way, way more. So you're going to get a lot more traffic coming to you for a longer period of time. If it's just a little bump and then the long tail. So here's an interesting story about news sites in particular. If everyone was to go on holiday for 10 days, the traffic, if it was only social traffic, would go to exact zero, which I find fascinating.
Wow. Well, on that bombshell, that just about takes us up to the end of episode 3 of season 2. Just time for an actionable tip from each of our guests related to or not necessarily related to what we've been discussing so far. Let's stick with Ross first. So Ross, what is your actionable tip?
It's for me, it's brand, create pillar content and then distribute it like that. Find where your voice is. If you're a writer, do writing. If you're good at audio like you are, do audio. If you love the sound of your own voice and think, if you're chocolate, you would eat yourself like me, do video.
I love that advice. If you naturally dislike a particular medium, a particular style, don't force yourself to keep on doing it, because you're not going to be producing the level of quality that is going to be appealing to your audience. So great advice there from Ross. You can find him over at typeamedia.net. And now, Nathan, what is your actionable tip?
Yeah. First of all, I love Ross's cope analogy. Definitely do that, because it kind of ties into what I wanted to talk about is ship. I think a lot of times marketers are perfectionists and we wait for everything to be just perfect and you can work on it and work on it. But the reality is that if it's 90% good, you can get results right now versus waiting an entire week and not generating any results. So the more you ship, the more results you're going to get. Don't wait for perfection, because it will never come.
Exactly. Yeah. Stop being a perfectionist. Great advice as well. And of course, you can find Nathan over at CoSchedule.com. We've also had Judith as our co-host today. Judith, what jumped out at you today from today's conversation?
I think thinking about all of your data across all of the different platforms. So don't just think about posting an Instagram picture or just post something on Facebook. Think about all the platforms that you could be distributing your branded content across, but also as a big person in B2B companies, I'm hot on saying just because you're B2B doesn't mean you don't use social media, because that's where your audience is. So never discard the social media baby with the bathwater. If you're B2B, make sure that you keep on it.
Wonderful. And you can find Judith over at decapit.com. I've been your host, David Bain, your co-host, David Bain. You can also find me over at digitalmarketingradio.com. We will be recording the next episode, Season 2, Episode 4 of The Scoop at the same time, same place, the SEMrush YouTube channel on Wednesday, the 24th of October, in 1 week's time, when my guest is scheduled to be Alexandra Reiner from LinkedIn, and she'll be sharing LinkedIn content marketing success stories. So not to be missed, unless you're in Australia, of course. In the meantime, thanks not only to Ross, Nathan, and Judith for this episode, but also to you for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the audio podcast. Just head over to searchmarketingscoop.com. Yes, we've still got that domain at the moment. And you'll find the link there to your preferred Apple or Android flavor of podcatcher. If you're already a Marketing Scoop audio podcast subscriber, tell us what you think. A rating and review inside your podcast app would be very much appreciated. But until next time, be fantabulous and do one thing that scares you. Adios.